very big and strong storm system that's going to be making its way through the central and southern plains and later the Midwest. But right now, this forecast is for the central and southern Great Plains. Because in case you guys didn't see my post last time, I have decided I'm only going to be focusing on the Great Plains. Pretty much from the Dakotas down through Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, maybe New Mexico. But overall, we're still looking at this massive system to come through, bringing the potential for strong tornadoes, very, very large hail, and some damaging wind gust. And we'll be looking at two models today. Right now, we're looking at the HRR model, the high resolution rapid refresh model. And as you can see, we could clearly see this massive jet stream out here on the western coast. Here, your system will pretty much be right here. But as we creep closer and later into Tuesday, we have a lot of backing on this system as well. But as what we're concerned about is when it ejects into the plains. And we'll see storms start to fire first in central to eastern Kansas. And if the cap breaks in Oklahoma and Texas, we will see a few isolated supercells going off in western Oklahoma and northwest Texas. But right now, as this does eject overnight, the cold front coming down into Kansas and Oklahoma can spark a second wave of severe storms that I'll be keeping an eye on too. But as we continue off into late Wednesday and early Thursday, we see that jet stream stretching out into the east, and we'll see a lot of back into the system again. But as we creep back towards the west, there is a slight risk into southern Oklahoma and north Texas and parts of Arkansas as well. I'll be keeping an eye on. Through temperatures in the concern area, which is generally Kansas and Oklahoma at the moment. Right now we are seeing a rapid return of dew points, but as the day progresses, we'll see those dew points do come in. We do see mid to upper 70s to even mid 80s to the west. Now this is a big concern as this HRR model, if the HRRR model is correct, right here we definitely could see storms fire off in western Oklahoma and northwest Texas, because these storms need these kind of temperatures to really get going. But as the night progresses and that cold front, we can clearly see up here in Nebraska and Kansas, as that progresses south very quickly, it will take Oklahoma and northwest Texas from the 70s all the way down, possibly down to the 50s for a brief time, before we see another slight surge of moisture in the southeast, where we can see another wave of severe thunderstorms. Going into dew points right now, only low to locally maybe mid 40s, and that obviously isn't a lot. But as we go off into the early to mid afternoon hours, watch just the surge of moisture upwards. We can clearly see where that dry line sets up out here in western Oklahoma. You can see that sharp difference in between dew points out here. But we'll have low to mid 60 dew points according to the HRRR model. And this does go all the way up to eastern Kansas as well. But the low level moisture isn't as rich. But the only question for Oklahoma right now and parts of Texas is the cloud cover and that cap. But as the moisture goes, as this dry line goes by and the cold front surges southward, we'll lose all that dew point. But going into Thursday and Friday, we do expect another surge of moisture, at least into southern Oklahoma. Can't see it on this model because this model is a short range model, but definitely something to keep an eye on regardless. Let's go to mixed layer cape. This mixed layer cape again is for instability, and right now absolutely nothing. But as that moisture surge just comes right up into Oklahoma and Kansas, We are expecting 2,500 all the way up to 3,000 joules per kilogram, and in some areas. And what this means is that is just so much instability. That is enough to get very large hail in supercells that can fire in central and western Oklahoma. That is so much. That is enough to get baseballs, potentially even some softball size hail here. The biggest hail might be in northern Oklahoma and far southern Kansas, but that has been moved further south. So I do think we could see baseballs, maybe even some softballs in a majority of those supercells that can erupt there in western Oklahoma. We could again clearly see where that dry line is, but the Cape is insanely high. And as this does continue off into the early morning hours, we see 3,000 joules per kilogram continuing there. But as the dry line and the cold front comes down, the instability will very quickly start to diminish and move off to the east, where it does start to bubble up again in southeast Oklahoma and northeast Texas. Let's look at storm relative helicity. This is a good way to look at shear as mixture of shear as well. And going off into today in the afternoon hours, we start to see looks like storm relative helicity dies, but watch how quickly it just explodes again in the afternoon and evening hours, where we see up to 500 locally, more than 500 meters a second, second squared, meter squared, seconds native squared. But overall, we have a lot of shear in the atmosphere, a lot of SRH or storm relative helicity. This will be plenty to give us the height that a pretty good chance for tornadoes. Now let's go into significant tornado parameter. And right now, again, it looks there's very low to almost none right now. But as we go late into the afternoon to evening hours, we see 5.4 to locally maybe 6 in there, kind of chucked in there. But as the afternoons and evenings continue, there we go. We have 6 to locally 7 on the significant parameter. As the storms move on through. But as the cold front and dry line move on, it breaks all this up a little bit, and we'll see that significant tornado parameter go back up to the east. Now looking at updraft helicity at 0 to 3 kilometers above ground level. Right now, we might see like a few teeny weeny cells up here in like Nebraska throughout the day, but nothing serious whatsoever. But what we are concerned for is later this afternoon, evening, where we could see a supercell take off in Nebraska, capable of mostly large hail and damaging winds. Here in northern Oklahoma, we do see a strong cell going up there as well. But most of the concern will be in far northern Oklahoma and central to eastern Kansas, where we see these pretty serious tracks. So far, nothing in Oklahoma until late evening hours and the overnight and early tomorrow morning, where we see at least a few tracks. But as we continue off into late Wednesday and early Thursday, we see those tracks start to go up in Arkansas. Not sure if I'll be able to go live on those, but for the Missouri and Arkansas storms tomorrow, I might go live for, depending on how strong those storms can really get. Now let's go over to reflectivity. And right now we have the low pressure system going to be arriving into Kansas, or sorry, Nebraska later this afternoon, evening, somewhere in there. But again, we could see where that supercell will take off there in northern Oklahoma. That will be responsible for the possibility of very large hail, damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour, and a couple strong tornadoes, and maybe even another one to the north of that. But right here we have a cluster of supercells forming in storms and thunderstorms, capable of producing large hail, a few tornadoes, and possibly faster, stronger winds. But as you see, there's not really much to talk about in Oklahoma until this line stretches off into central Oklahoma, But if the cap breaks, we will see some storms fire off out here in western Oklahoma. But as this storm goes by, that will be over for Oklahoma. But off to the east, we could see Arkansas and some parts of Missouri where we still continue to see that those severe storms continue. It's going to NAM 3 kilometer Conus. I forgot. In this one, let's go to draft helicity for this one. Check it out real quick. And as the hours go by into this afternoon and evening, where we do see the same supercells take off in a similar area, but we don't see it happening in northern Oklahoma until later in the afternoon and evening when those storms move on through, and off into the east in Arkansas, where we do see those cells take off, very strong cells. This model does pull up some cells going into southern and southwestern Oklahoma, which is a little odd to me, but as we go into future reflectivity going off into the afternoon hours, we see these storms start to fire off in central Kansas. And hold up. There we go. These storms fire off in central Kansas where possible for tornadoes, damaging winds, and some large hail. But again, as these storms do move by, this particular model doesn't bring much up in central Oklahoma, but it still needs to be watched regardless for that cap to break. Here is the Storm Prediction Center's outlook. We have a massive marginal risk ranging from from central to eastern Nebraska, as far east as south Wisconsin and northern Illinois. And that runs all the way down into around the Texas and Mexican border. And a much longer, a slight risk ranging from northern Missouri through far southeast Nebraska and as far south as the Abilene, Texas area, there in central Texas. And the event of the day, we have the level 3 enhanced risk ranging from northwest Missouri around the Kansas City area through central and eastern Kansas, down through central Oklahoma, down towards the Red River. Now, the major cities included are Fort Sill, Norman, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Wichita, and Kansas City. Strong tornado risk is expected to remain just next to the Red River up through central Oklahoma and southeast Kansas. That does include Wichita, Kansas, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Norman, and Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And a much larger 5% risk ranging from northern Missouri, where that slight risk started, through far southeast Nebraska, down south past the Red River, into northern Texas, where we could see a couple tornadoes. We do have a 2% risk out in California for an isolated tornado or two, and a 2% risk here in central Nebraska through southwest Iowa and down to south of the Abilene area in central Texas. And a wind risk that stretches out here. We could have 80 mile per hour winds out in eastern Kansas into far western Missouri around the Kansas City area, and that 30% hatch risk again, possibly up to 80 miles per hour in there. Maybe a few gusts more than that. But we could see in this yellow 15% area, we could see 60 to 70 miles per hour, and that goes all from the northeast corner of Missouri through far southeast Nebraska down into central and southern Oklahoma and central Texas around the Abilene area. And a 5% risk for 60 mile per hour winds, maybe a gust a bit more than that, from central Nebraska to far western Illinois, down through the Red River, and across into the Mexican-Texan border there, southeast of Fort Stockton. And hail and tornadoes seem to be the primary risk today, where we have a 30% hatched risk ranging from eastern Kansas through northern and central Oklahoma towards the Red River, where we could see some hail sizes up to softball size. That is big enough to go right through your roof, smash your windshield, and it's just not good whatsoever. And outside of that, in that yellow hatched area, up to baseballs are possible with some stronger supercells. And outside of that, in the 15 and 5% risk area, Some hail sizes could get as big as golf balls. I'll be keeping an eye on everything. If you enjoyed this forecast, make sure to like and subscribe. And I will be live later today, regardless if supercells fire in western Oklahoma. They will definitely fire in eastern or central Kansas.